All right, we got to get one more group here before we are officially off the ground and everything is going. But I want to make sure that you guys are here to join us today, to join us for football. And Scott, good morning to you. How are you doing?
I think I just got my alert for Broncos for breakfast.
There
So
we go.
it's Broncos for breakfast time. I did not get an alert yesterday because we were not here yesterday.
Yeah, no,
So it's
absolutely.
a Wednesday edition.
Yes, absolutely. We have the 53-man roster now, so it actually worked out pretty well for us in that regard. And I'm just getting back from the Olympic Peninsula, hanging out with the wife and the mother-in-law. Went up to Hurricane Ridge, did some swimming in Lake Crescent.
Hurricane. That's those are bad words in these parts.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it that. It's probably I don't know. I don't know if there's ever been a hurricane up there, but it's a pretty spot.
Yeah,
We had to be evacuated though.
Idaho was rough. It wasn't Katrina rough, but it was rough. We got here in Georgia. I got the first bit of the bands yesterday afternoon, or maybe even what's today, Wednesday already, maybe even Monday. And I look down and it's, if you try and ignore the destruction and appreciate the science, it's just they're cool to watch and how the storms spin off of them like a spiral. And we started getting some of that yesterday, and it's cooled off. It was 69 degrees here this morning.
Nice. Well, that's hoping that everybody's doing okay. Obviously, this is a tragedy. It's unfortunate, but hopefully if everybody's down there, none of our listeners may be in New Orleans. I don't know, but if anybody is, reach out and we'll send good vibes. We actually had to be evacuated off Hurricane Ridge because somebody wrote a manifesto and went off into the woods, hopped up on meth with a rifle. So they said, get the heck out of there. So it's still closed. I haven't found the dude yet.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take my chances with a hurricane than a crazy dude with a high-powered rifle.
And hopped up on a lot of amphetamines. Yeah. So good morning, everybody. This is Broncos for breakfast. Obviously, you can find Scott and myself, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell, MHH. You guys can follow us also on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. That'll help us a lot. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, make sure you drop the like react or the care react to see we got Keith Bergman coming in with the care. I appreciate you, Keith, as well as Miguel. Oh, man, Miguel S. and Mark Lindemann coming in with a like. Thank you guys so much. Also, if you guys are joining us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and share it while you're doing so. Also, go over to Scott's channel, youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Scott, what's the latest and greatest there?
I've been quiet, just interacting with people on historical videos. I haven't done a ton. I keep saying I'm waiting for something, and then there's always something else to wait for. So it's growing, and it's but I haven't done anything new in the last week, except for our should they trade Drew Lock piece that we posted and got a bunch of comments on there. And there are some people that are kind of upset. Yes, he deserves better. This, and this, or and they some people took notice with my comment that you can't get a backup quarterback for a fourth round, and that statement, that's correct, because you can get a backup quarterback off of waivers.
Yeah.
What I meant was you can't get a backup quarterback the quality of a 18-game starter. I don't think you can get a backup quarterback as good as you already have for the cost that you already have for a fourth round. And if I'm going to get rid of Drew Lock, it's not going to be this year. It might be next year. And for this year, you'd have to pay me a lot more than a fourth rounder. So wanted to clarify on that, because yes, you can get a backup quarterback from anywhere. There's guys holding clipboards. They'll never play it down. But the quality of Drew Lock with his experience and what you could need him for as a starter this year, it's going to take more than a fourth rounder to get him from me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate all the comments coming in. Heart from Gary Leeds Palmer. That's awesome. I'm going to try Miguel Santa Steven. Hopefully I got that right. Devine Henderson coming in here, and also Jim Hilton with the like. So thank you guys over on Facebook. And if you guys are getting in those stars right now, you are entering a chance to win a Von Miller jersey from Mile High Huddle. So every single star is essentially a raffle ticket. So get those in. Even, the smallest of stars gives you a chance. And
what could we win? Could you repeat that?
A Von Miller jersey.
Okay. Very nice.
Crisp Von Miller jersey. So obviously probably the face of the franchise right now, and been the face of the franchise for a bit. So make sure you guys get those stars in. And let's say hello to everybody. We got John D. Herrera coming in here saying, "Rise and shine, Broncos for breakfast is here." I'm my best Ric Flair voice. Woo.
All right. I grew up with Ric Flair. The downtown Atlanta was the old NWA, and that's if you weren't in Vince McMahon's, that was one of the bigger ones. So you got to ditch the H if you're going to do Ric Flair. It's not who. It's Woo!
There we go, man. Don't blow this up.
I'm a stickler for things like that. That in Louisville, those are the kind of things that, I don't know much, but I know that.
You won't catch me doing woo this early. The coffee's not kicked in yet. It's coming though. We'll see. If we get some Broncos wins, maybe we'll get some Ric Flair woos in here. EJ coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good morning to you, EJ. Jeremy Sean coming in. Good morning. I thought I was going crazy yesterday. Somehow I missed the update. Yeah, you guys will have to check out, if nothing's going on, like what's going on happening, check out Mile High Huddle's Twitter page, which we tell you guys to follow. So hopefully you will see that. But those are the areas where if something's happening, if you're at Twitter, Mile High Huddle will happen. So I tweeted it out as well. We need to get Chad to get us our own Broncos for Breakfast Twitter page also. US Dave coming in here. Mornings, me too. All right, well, that's the mornings me as well. I am Supreme. Morning, guys. Let's do it. Broncos have their squad. They mostly have their squad. Mark Lindemann coming in saying, good morning, gentlemen. Broncos forever. Facebook user saying, gotta run, check back later. Well, thank you very much, Facebook user. Mo Ron saying, wonder if wide receiver Kadarius Hodge should be a consideration for Denver to sign. It does sound like they're going to be after some wide receivers, so we'll see. Divine Henderson saying, good morning. CC, morning, fellas. Hope you all doing great. I'm doing well. A little tired, but doing well. Mark Lindemood coming in. Eyes on hurricanes here in Georgia every summer. Don't blame. That's not very fun. Miguel, good morning, fellas. Good to see you. Shane Daniels in the house as well. Good morning, Kenny Wong. Let's get this Broncos going. And we got a super sticker from John D. Herrera. Unfortunately, I cannot pull up what the super sticker is, but I'm in a Bradley Chubb mood today, so I'm going to think it's Bradley Chubb sacking Daniel Jones to a tune of 2.5 sacks and a strip sack because Andrew Thomas don't want none of the smoke. Have you heard how bad the Giants have been? The bad Giants offensive line?
Well, I mean, they've been kind of team turmoil all fall. I mean, we call it fall. Yeah. It's still summer, but they call it fall practice. All summer so far. So, I mean, there's not a lot of good that's been coming out of there at this point. I don't know. What is it with New York teams if you're not the Yankees? It's always drama.
Yeah, there is something to that. It's not
I think it's the fact that they don't play in New York. They're New Jersey. Yeah. All these New Jersey teams calling themselves New Yorkers. I think that's what it ends up boiling down to.
Absolutely. Hey, the Bills, man, the only true New York football team. Chris Graham coming in here with the stars. Thank you very much, Chris. Also, we got Shane Daniels. What is your biggest surprise concerning the roster? Well, I guess let's just get into it. So also Peter Middleton's here. Lauren Weiss, I'm from Wahoo McDaniel Wrestling Era. So that's doesn't mean anything to me. I'm sorry, but
that's
maybe
cheap Wahoo McDaniel to those that are too young to remember old school wrestling. I was coming in at the end of the Harley Race era, so I missed the Bruno Sammartino. I caught his son, Bruno Sammartino Jr. So I moved to Georgia in '78. My parents moved down here when I was 5. So about 1980 is when Ric Flair's hitting I don't even think it was called the NWA, but they're down at Center Stage down in Atlanta, just doing wrestling with all these guys that ended up being big names. So it was a lot of fun. But anyway, biggest surprise for me, I don't know that there's any huge surprises on here. The one I think the person I'm probably most disappointed for but happy at the same time is Trinity Benson.
Yeah.
I thought he had a terrific preseason, and and you look at the roster, and the Broncos only have 5 wide receivers on there, and you start thinking, I was like, is that enough? So I started looking around. I'm like, you go 4 wide receiver sets, you've only got 1 out. What happens if you want to run a 4 wide out set and you've got an injury? You've got no subs then. But I looked at the rest of the AFC West. Everybody else kept 5 wide receivers also. So I guess it was just me. I just figured there'd be at least 6. With Kansas City 5 and 4 tight ends, Broncos 5 and 4 tight ends, Raiders 5 and 3 tight ends, and Chargers 5 and 4 tight ends. So it was limited space. But for me, I was probably most disappointed for Trinity Benson. I thought he was fantastic during the preseason.
Yeah, he was really good. I guess it's a good job by the Broncos. Even if it's only getting back, a 5th and a 7th for Benson and a 6th. You took an undrafted free agent and cultivated him over some years, and now you're not going to have to pay him. You already weren't having to really pay him, but it was coming down the tracks. Now you can reset that with a 5th round pick. And that's what you see the Patriots do that all the time. They get these players, they build them up, they trade them for, even if it's just an incremental gain, you're still selling high.
And he wasn't getting through waivers. If you tried to practice squad him, there's no way he was getting through waivers. So it's a good move if you can't find a spot for him. But man, I wish I would have liked to have seen him stick around. But again, when someone's trading for you, how many 5th round picks got cut this week? Not probably not very many. So when someone's trading for you, it means they're investing in you. It means you get a little bit longer leash, a little bit longer rope. So he should have a chance to make a roster now and play in the NFL and get a nice paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for the super chat there, Shane. My biggest surprise, I think it would be Andre Mintz making the team, which I'm happy about. I think he might be one of the ones who is subject to being cut if waivers happen, because he's more likely to clear waivers now that he's made the 53, because other teams are going to be starting to stack that roster and getting those guys on there. So if he goes back through waivers and is a player that Broncos may be able to stack on their practice squad the second time through if he's cut, if the Broncos bring in somebody else. The other one that surprised me, who honestly he didn't flash at all in preseason to me. I didn't write his name down, I don't think once, but it was Jonathan Harris, a defensive lineman. I thought that he was pretty much camp fodder. Apparently not. He's still here. But that's where we're at. So we'll see what happens with Jonathan Harris there. And also, comment here from US Dave, and I confirmed it. Wahoo McDaniel was a former Denver Broncos linebacker. Played football at the University of Oklahoma. Was drafted in the 2nd round in 1960, and played for the Houston Oilers, Denver Broncos for 61 to 63 seasons, New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins.
See, all these connections I have to the Broncos that I didn't even know about. Stuff like that keeps coming up. And how fluid, because, with waivers coming out, it's like, okay, I made it. But some of the comments from different coaches and general managers yesterday were basically, don't go looking for a house just yet. Don't unpack your bags.
Yeah.
Where are some places that you look at this roster and you think, obviously, there's going to be some changes?
Well, I mean, you have to just look no further than George Paton's press conference. He said it outright. We're looking to add up to 3 wide receivers. So that's a position where they're looking a lot. Obviously, special teams is going to be the biggest one there, and you feel pretty good about your top 4 with Sutton, Judy, Hamler, and Patrick, but they are looking for wide receivers. So I think Powell, who was a 5th round pick by the Chiefs, who actually was waived, is somebody to have your eye on. The Broncos have the 9th pick coming up here, or the 9th. They're 9th in the order of the waiver claim. So they'll get a chance at that. But I'm thinking wide receiver is the one position where I know it's deep, but they're looking for guys who are specific to special teams. So that seems like the most obvious spot for me. Maybe somewhere on the offensive line, but outside of tackle. And they already said that also in that interview. Sorry, I bumped my headphones here. George Paton said that they're going to be bringing back Cam Fleming and somebody else. My name's blanking right now. Cam Fleming and blank. It'll come to me. But you already know that it said outright. Cam Fleming's coming back. So you have that tackle coming in there. So we'll see what happens. Somebody in the chat can give me. It was Cam Fleming and blank. God, its name is escaping me right now. But wide receiver. That's where I'm leaning. That makes the most sense. Maybe you could see a linebacker, but the Broncos just traded for a linebacker that is special teams ace. So, and it was Shamar Stevens from Minnesota, the defensive lineman. So there it is. Yep, they're going to bring him back as well. And those players, guys, are not subjected to the waiver wire because they are vested veterans. So the Broncos can release them. Those guys can just sit there twiddling their thumbs and then come back. I also think if the Broncos bring them back after week 1, their contracts are not guaranteed, or like they don't have to pay them the full amount. So it's some business sense coming in there for that. And I think that's probably what you're going to see. Those guys will probably sit there in space and then be brought back after week 1.
All right. There's 4 wide receivers that were cut. So I guess they didn't think that any of those were the ones that, were good enough to make the 53. Tyree Cleveland, we talked about him as potential upside, but if you're only going to take 5, how much better is Deontay Spencer than some of these guys? And what does he bring to the table that got him on the roster as opposed to, Seth Williams or Tyree Cleveland or Kendall Hinton?
I guess it's the fact that he is a specialized returner and you know what you're getting. And last year he was super stable and secure with returning the ball. I never really had a single scare with him returning the football. And with a team that has such a small margin for error, the style of play they're going to play, they're not going to be blowing many teams out, putting up 50 points. You need the special teams to be steady Eddie. And that's what Deontay Spencer brings. So I guess I am a little bit bummed that he is taking a spot almost purely as a returner. But at the same time, Seth Williams, Tyree Cleveland, those guys did not take the bull by the horns, so to speak, and run with the job where the Broncos had to have that difficult conversation of like, okay, well, we don't really have a true returner, but maybe we can work with one of these guys. So Deontay Spencer makes the team as a returner, and they're really emphasizing the special teams right now, which, you can take it as it will. But Tom McMahon on the hot seat, but Vic Fangio made his bed, right? He could have moved on from Tom McMahon this offseason and had a fresh start with a new special teams coach. But Tom McMahon's here, and if Tom McMahon fails, Vic Fangio fails. So they're really trying to surround him with no excuses and solidify that special teams. And that's what this final phase is going to be, of building this 53-man roster.
Fleming was at right tackle for that fumble by Locke, wasn't he?
Yes, he is. Not great. He's getting paid
I was
a lot.
watching that, and then I was like glancing over at cuts. I'm like, giving up a sack. But I thought it's arrogant, but I kind of judge color broadcasters if they say what I'm thinking. And I thought Brian Greasy did a good job with that play on the national broadcast, because there was a lot of blame to go around on that play. I think he held off for a good 4 seconds. That ball's got to come out of there. But again, when you're playing in the third or fourth quarter in the preseason game, when your guy gets the edge and causes a fumble, you're in trouble. That wasn't good. But I felt a little bad for him, because I thought he did a good enough job. Just got a little unlucky there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Shout out to Shannon Mills here at the Stars. Also, Mike Woodward. Good to see you this morning. He woke up bright and early to come join us. Hit the thumbs up, as he says there. So make sure you guys do that. So let's keep it going here. Other surprises, I guess Andre Mintz was one for me. And I'm not sure how many snaps he's going to have, because this Broncos edge rusher group looks as good as I can remember for a while. And shout out to Jonathan Cooper. He had 3 surgeries post-draft. So that's a reason that he fell to the 7th round on his heart, at that as well. So that's a concern, but he was dominant out there. And I know that he flashed a lot at Ohio State, and you were at the Senior Bowl. I'm sure he stood out to you there, because for the clips I saw, he was baptizing tackles left and right.
Yeah, he was good at the Senior Bowl. I thought Baron Browning was ahead of him, and that's where he went. And maybe he was slowed down, but we talked about last week, what's his trait that is getting him? And I was talking about his hands and how well he uses his hands to get guys off him. His first step in any direction is also really good, so he's getting into guys quickly, and he's using his hands, and that's and then having the lateral bounce to go side to side with a high motor, that's a pretty good that's a combination. So I think, what we've seen from Cooper, you mentioned Mins, it's like, well, Cooper just blew everybody's expectations out of the water as a 7th rounder. He looks like a bona fide backup at worst right now.
Fringe starter. Really, I mean, really, that's how good he was for a 7th round edge rusher too. Like, edge is typically a position where it's like 1st round or GTFO, right? Like, the Broncos have a history recently, Shaq Barrett, Malik Reed, undrafted guys, but that's not normal. It's pretty much you see a guy and it's obvious, because it's so specific to like the body type and the athleticism, where like when you see it, it. So those guys go in the 1st round. So to get one in the 7th round,
we talk about the depth of the secondary on this team, but I've said for 30 years, a good defense is a defense that can get pressure with the front 4, front 3, but if just rushing 4.
Yeah.
And we know that's the case with the first group. It's proven. Now you've got a second group coming in that doesn't seem like it's having, I know it's preseason, but doesn't seem like it's got a huge drop off. You watch Deshaun Williams coming through the middle, and Jonathan Cooper coming off the edge, and Malik Reed coming off the edge. Now you've got 4 quarters, 80 snaps of guys that can get after you without a much of a drop off, and that's going to pay dividends in the second half of these games, or even in the first half when you might want to rest give some guys a break, so your starters, your first team guys are fresh at the end of the games, which is how you'll use your rotation. But it means that the pass rush should be relentless. The one thing I did notice, as good a push as the front was getting, it was leaving a pretty good gap between the defensive line and the linebackers, and it was making the Broncos susceptible to screen passes. So if a dummy like me can pick up on that, the defensive coordinators will be able to pick up on that, and they'll make some adjustments. So that's an adjustment I would expect to see as we move forward to game 1.
And that's one of those areas where it's like, the Broncos have solid linebacking play. They have very high floor in the linebacking room. Don't really have a sweeper, so to speak, a guy who is just, sideline to sideline and can clean up those kind of things and make sure that they're 2-yard gains instead of 20-yard gains. So, that is somewhat of a concern for the defense. If there is one part where it's like, man, I wish we had a stud middle linebacker who could do sideline to sideline stuff. You can work your defense around that, especially when you have the great defensive line and great secondary. But it is something to watch. So for teams that have good pass catching running backs or a slot wide receiver or somebody like that, how
many times do we hear the name Tutu Atwell?
Yeah.
I was glad to see he made the team. I'm like, I hope he made the team after touching the ball 72 times for the Rams, and he did. He did make the team, so I was happy for him and the Rams because he was seeing the ball an awful lot, returns, screen passes. I mean, he was. It was the first time I noticed him though was he checked down and tried to block Bradley Chubb. That didn't go so well. He just kind of brushed him off like a fly. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how you want Atwell coming in and blocking, outside linebacker defensive ends. That might not be his best role.
No, yeah, Bradley Chubb engulfed him. Michael Ronquillo, good morning, Nick and Scott from Broncos for breakfast. Good morning, Greg Smith. Haven't seen Greg yet. Hope Greg's doing well.
He may have been the one that said he had to check out and come back later. That could have been our aloha.
Okay.
As Facebook user before it really synced up.
That would make sense. Also, Broncos country and go Broncos. And as Peter says, nice stars as always. So thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate that. Also, Diamond Rattler coming with the $5 over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Diamond. Appreciated you coming in last night as well. We had a good time with the show over on Broncos, Building the Broncos. And guys, we'll be going back normal Tuesday, Thursday going forward. Is just because of me being out of town, as well as the 53-man roster being finalized. We're coming in today. So great to see. Ashton's coming in also. Morning, guys. Great to see. We got James Grossman in the house. Let's get to James here. After this preseason, you got to feel more optimistic about the season and the general depth across the offense and the defense. I feel like coaching is really the main thing that could throw a wrench in our season. Looking forward to game 1. So what are your thoughts here? Coaching, that definitely seems like something that could be a limiting reagent, if you will, on how good this team can be.
Well, let's look at the team, and we can just go, unit by unit here pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And the big question mark for I think all of us, what's been the big question mark for 6 months?
Quarterback.
Okay. So quarterback's probably the big question. You know what you're going to get with Teddy Bridgewater. It should be steady and good, not great, good. Offensive line looks good enough. Right tackle position, maybe a little bit of a weakness, but again, compared to other teams across the league, I don't think the offensive line's a problem. Let's go to running back. Javonte Williams. Oh, and speaking of guys I was happy to see make the roster, I thought Royce Freeman had a very good preseason.
Yep, he did.
And was happy to see him there as well. He might not stay, but he's there for now. So running back, Javonte Williams. Oh, Melvin Gordon looked fantastic.
Yes, he did. He looked so springy. I don't remember him looking that much of a home run hitter. He's going to pop some big ones this year.
Yes. Speaking of which, his ability to hit the hole. We could go through all this. I don't want to go on a huge monologue, but there's depth and competition and talent at every position, except maybe quarterback is the big question. So will it come down to scheming, injuries, a little luck, and your quarterback play to see how far this Broncos team goes? Yes, it will.
Yeah, and the one that I see some people commenting in here, it is special teams, right? Special teams is one that it seems like it's a forgotten phase. We're not scouting. Like, I'm not going into the NFL draft.
I printed out a roster and didn't even put special teams on it.
Yeah.
Someone's like, can you put special teams back on? I'm like, fine.
Yep, exactly. But the depth, it's not so much like the actual specialists, like Jacob Bobenmeyer, long snapper. We're not having issues with the long snapper. Sam Martin's fine. Brandon McManus is pretty darn good. But it's the coverage units. It's mainly the ones where the Broncos are either kickoff or punting and making sure that other teams are not gashing you, flipping field position.
Yeah, there's so much hidden yardage in there that we don't necessarily pay attention to. But let's look at the bottom teams of return yards and field position and all that type of stuff that coaches harp on about, and we kind of roll our eyes sometimes, but it's true. One of my favorite phrases is, how do you think they become stereotypes? Coaches are always talking about, field position and turnovers because, well, it matters. It matters a lot.
Especially when you're a team that's not likely to put up 40 points a game. Though that field position makes a big difference. And I've had that preached to me watching the Iowa Hawkeyes for years. I mean, Kirk Ferentz has a infamous quote in Iowa country, I guess, where he talked about punting is winning. Where he's talking about if you have good punting games, you're flipping the field position and making them consistently march 90 yards down the field. You're going to win football games. Now, punting is not winning.
Another one of those quotes taken out of context that can make you sound like a complete idiot.
Yep.
I'm very familiar with those. Unfortunately, half of my comments are in context, and it makes me sound like an idiot. So,
man, that's but if you're ending drives, I think there's another coaching cliche out there. But if you're ending each drive with a kick, you got a good chance to win. And that's either kickoff, field goal, or punting. I mean, obviously, punting's the worst of that situation, but it sure beats the hell out of a turnover on downs. So we got Derek Kincaid coming in here asking, what's the difference between Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay? Pretty dissimilar backs, I would say. Philip Lindsay, actually, I thought he did his best work between the tackles. Even though he's a home run hitter, he's so small that he kind of just would burst out of there. And I liked him a lot with 21 personnel, where he could follow a fullback. And once that fullback took out a linebacker, just gone, spring. And even though he was a smaller guy, I thought he ran better between the tackles than outside. Royce Freeman is a big body back. Also, Philip Lindsay, not a really good pass catcher, but also just bless his heart, not a good pass protector either. Just got engulfed by linebackers. Royce Freeman, pretty solid pass catcher. Pretty darn good pass protector as well. I wish he was a little bit more physical between the tackles. Sometimes I feel like he's like running in quicksand and he doesn't have the gear that he thinks he has, where he's trying to get outside and it's like, listen, man, you are 230 pounds. Be a bowling ball. That's your game. That's how you're going to make money in the league. And to his credit, I thought he did that better this season. Also, he's not as dynamic in the open field as Lindsay, but they're pretty night and day difference. Anything there that you want to add to?
Yeah, well, I know more about Royce Freeman than Lindsay. And, Freeman, 6'2", 230. The Freeman you see now was the same Freeman at 16 years old. I mean, he was a grown man as a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And, picture him playing at a small, I think he was from California. I'm not positive, but he ended up going up to Oregon. Picture him playing smaller kids in high school at that size. He didn't have to run tough. He didn't have to. Yeah. He could run by everybody, and at worst, he's breaking arm tackles. Then he goes to Oregon, and he's playing in space all the time. He doesn't have to learn how to run between the tackles. The good news on this is that he probably hasn't taken the kind of hits that a lot of these guys have. The bad news is he never learned how to run his size. He's just 25 years old. So if it clicks, say, listen, you're 235 pounds and you're a wrecking ball, at the risk of offending anybody, it's saying it's time to man up. And I saw that in the preseason. I haven't watched him run the ball in a while, and I saw a guy that was hitting the holes hard. And with his stature and his quickness and his balance, if he does that, he's a weapon. So is he better than Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon? Probably not.
Probably not.
Can he do a job? Yeah. Yes, he can.
Yeah, probably not Mike Boone either. I'm excited to see him back. He'll be on the short-term IR along with Michael Ojemudia, and that'll create space for both Shamar Stephen and Cam Fleming. So watch for that. We got Keith Brugman coming in here asking, as we prepare for the Giants, what is one thing in the game plan you think is necessary for the win? I'll kick this to you first, Scott, because I feel like I'm going to
say, let's go back to Top Gun. It's be Iceman. Don't make mistakes. Let them beat themselves. Yeah. Again, I said they're cliches for a reason. How do you think they become stereotypes? But you give New York enough chances, they're going to give you the opportunity. So yeah, we like the aggressive blitzes and stuff. We like all that stuff. But against Perkins, again, this is a guy who's not in the league anymore, on the team anymore. But you watched in the second half of the game, the Broncos were rushing 3 or 4 and making the quarterback beat them, and he couldn't. He couldn't beat coverage. He couldn't beat the defense. You can play that way against the Giants for the most part. You don't have to blitz your eyeballs out. You can use a 4-man rush, drop 7 into coverage, and beat them. So again, I'm rolling my eyes at myself even saying this. Don't turn the ball over. Limit big plays. and you should be fine. So again, don't beat yourself. The Giants will give you plenty of opportunities to let you beat them.
Yeah, no, that's a great comment. For me, the main matchup that I'm looking for here is, and it probably not a total, it is a mismatch, but the strength of that Giants team is the interior defensive line. They have 2 first-round picks, 2 top 15 picks, top 16 picks on that interior defensive line, and Dexter Lawrence, who's probably the second best nose tackle in football right now behind Vita Vea, and Dexter Lawrence is like 6'5", 350. I mean, he is absolutely incredibly huge, and he was dominant last year. And also they have Leonard Williams, who was a top 3 pick a few years ago, who's really starting to come into his own. So my thing is, one thing I'm game planning for, I'm not going to lose sight of the identity of this team and what we want to do. This is a team that wants to run the football, and sometimes that means, you're going to have to win by paper cuts, a little bit here and there. But if the Broncos interior offensive line is getting beat by Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, which they probably will, because the interior offensive line, they're solid, but I feel like they're a little bit more finesse than power ballers right now. I'm not giving up on that running game, because your defense should be doing good enough to keep the game close, and even if the Broncos are ahead. So keep working away that run game. Eventually, you're going to wear them down, hopefully, and that's the strength of your team. Don't lose sight of your identity, even if the Broncos interior offensive line is kind of getting stalemate early on against how good that.
And what's Teddy's strength is finding the open spot at the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
So if you're having trouble running up the gut, well, you've got the perfect quarterback to hit 3 or 4 different receivers quickly. That ball will be coming out in less than a second. They're going to get frustrated. They're not going to. You take them out of the game by instituting a horizontal passing game. That becomes your running game to a certain extent. And then you got 2 guys that can catch the ball well out of the backfield. Screen pass them to death. Let them run themselves to the ground. Roll the pocket, do all those kind of things. So 2 interior linemen, that's great, but those guys can be schemed out of the game fairly easily if you've got a team that's not relying on 7-step drops and 3-second reads.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's I just don't lose sight of your identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to be, you see that again. I hate to bring it back to Iowa, but there's a lot of similarities between how this Denver team is built to how my Hawkeye teams have been built over the last 5 years. Not very explosive offense, run first, great defenses. I feel like Iowa really loses themselves in games when the run game isn't working. It's close. The defense is keeping it close. But they're like, oh my gosh, the run game's not working. Hit the panic button. Like, just totally lose your identity. Don't do that. Stay true to yourself. The defense is going to keep it close. Grind them down. Be a glacier over a rock over time. You're just going to keep breaking that rock down into sediment, and eventually you will break that rock.
What did Coach Boone say? And remember the Titans. It's like Novocaine. Give it time. It always works.
Yep, it'll happen. It's gonna happen. Miguel Santastevan. Hopefully I said it right that time. I saw your comment here. I like to comment just to see Nick try and say my name. Love the show. Go ahead. Let's hear Scott give it a try. Miguel Santastevan.
I'm gonna go with I'm not gonna go with a long E, so I'd say Stevan. Santastevan. The one that I think I missed worse than anybody. Say your backup tight end's last name.
Oh, Okwuegbunam.
All right. Okay. I didn't mess it up. Did you hear who was doing the call on that?
Was it Greasy?
One of the ESPN guys.
Right.
I actually wrote it down phonetically. He called him Okwuegbunam.
Yeah, that's wrong.
I was like, wow, I really messed that up. I thought it had like a Queeg's coffin in there somewhere. But it was it Ravitch, Carl Ravitch doing the call with I think so. With Brian Greasy, and the pass goes to the tight end, and he goes Okwuegbunam. I had to replay. I'm like, who caught that ball? I'm like, wow, I really messed his name up. I'm like, I'm sure they did their homework on this. Oh, yeah. We messed that one up pretty good. So okay, well, good.
You hope that Alberto is good enough this season where people have to learn his name, right? Like that kind of speaks to where he's at in his process right now, right? Like 5th round pick, injured last year, small sample size, but if he's dominating, people are going to get his name right. That's how he's made it.
Victor Rios. I always, boring names like, Scott that we grew up with. I always said us kids and us Gen X kids only had about 8 names to choose from. Mike, John, Scott. And when you start throwing out those names up there, I always think of not Field of Dreams. What's the other Kevin Costner? Bull Durham. You need a nickname. So, but yeah, people are going to learn his name. Say my name from Godsmack. That's a good walk-up music.
There you go. Victor Rios, cheers to him, buddy. Guys just bought tickets to the Giants versus Broncos game. Let's go Broncos. That'll be awesome. It sounds like a lot of people are going to that Giants-Broncos game that are Broncos country, so that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, there'll be more Giants fans there, but really pulling for them. And Keith, yeah, shout out to you. I'm glad we could answer your question. Best pod on the Broncos. Really enjoy. Well, thanks, Keith. Honestly, what makes this podcast and the live stream so good is the comment section. I really appreciate you guys keeping it civil. I know we're just getting out of that quarterback battle where it could get pretty ugly. But I feel like you guys have done a great job. Maybe it's because everybody's a little still groggy-eyed in the morning, or on their morning commute. They're not all angry because of work yet. But it's good to see everybody being happy in here. Peter also saying, Scott, you're an MHH pod guy now. Trust yourself more than those one game ESPN guys. Broncos for breakfast is here to stay.
Yeah, like I said, I thought Brian Greasy. I don't know, maybe because I've worked in the media so long, I tend to pay attention to who's doing it right. And I thought Brian Greasy did a good job with that game. I was pleased with him. He's not one of my favorite guys. I don't necessarily dislike him, but I thought Greasy did a good job with that game. So it was fairly easy. There's some people I just flat out cannot listen to. We'll hit the mute button, or probably with football watch something else, because 4-hour games tend to bore me a little bit.
Oh, man, I can't even think that way right now because I'm so starved for real meaningful football. I am jonesing for Saturday, Iowa versus Indiana.
See, I'm 3 days into an international break. I'm like, where's the international football? The deadline. Yesterday was a busy day. It was deadline day for the NFL and deadline day in international football. So Chelsea even guys y'all have heard about made moves this year. Cristiano, Leo Messi. It's been a fun month getting ready for Broncos football in less than 2 weeks, in a week and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at 38 minutes right now, 37 minutes. We have not had a chance to talk the Rams game so much. I do kind of want to pivot to there. Obviously, if you guys have questions about the 53-man roster, please get at us and we'll break down that as well. But I was curious your thoughts about this game. The Broncos starting Teddy Bridgewater, which I thought was way riskier than anything I would have done, considering the toxicity of the quarterback battle. If Teddy came out and sucked and Drew Lock came out and balled out, then we would be, that much more toxic in here. But that wasn't really the case. They really mirrored each other. I thought Drew Lock and Teddy struggling early, then having a good drive late. But your thoughts on Teddy Bridgewater to start there in that Rams game? I thought
Teddy was good. I watched Lock a little more, honestly, just to see how he'd react. Mm-hmm. Teddy, what Teddy does really well is find a receiver and get the ball out quick. That's one of his strengths. He's got a lot more arm strength than he's given credit for, and he will stretch the defense, especially with this group of receivers that he has. Mm-hmm. But you start looking at it, it's like, okay, 3 and out in the first series, here come overreactions and that type of stuff. I thought Drew Lock played well. I think he had some trouble with Quinn Miners on the snaps that kind of got into his first series. There were 2 of them right there, pretty early in his time on the field. I thought his touchdown drive was a thing of beauty. Him stepping back and throwing in rhythm was pretty. So they threw some great balls out there. So overall, I thought it was good. And then, a couple of guys that flashed for me on the defensive side of the ball are guys we've already talked about. Deshaun Williams, I just love this guy. I love him. He's one of those guys that, if I saw him, I'd be like, hey, don't forget about me when everybody knows your name, because he's really, really good. And I think you've got something there. And then Jonathan Cooper coming off. But Caden Stearns was hot and cold watching him a little bit. He made some plays, but he also did a couple where he's putting his head down and blowing by guys. I'm like, don't like to see that. Keep your head Texas. Right. So overall, I thought it was a good showing, and I didn't know what to expect from the quarterbacks, honestly, because it was with an announcement like that before the third game, it could have gone either way. So some good, some bad. It was a preseason game.
Yeah. I was happy to see both guys end on touchdown drives. I do think that a microcosm of the decision of Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, was shown in this game. And it was Teddy navigating the pocket, protecting the football, And while he's not as explosive or twitchy as Drew Lock is as an athlete, he's better keeping calm under pressure and navigating the pocket. And then you have the Drew Lock play where Cam Fleming's beat, but Drew Lock's holding on to that ball. I think it was 3.5 seconds from what I saw on Twitter, and standing completely still, not negotiating the pocket at all, and getting the ball strip sacked. Now, yes, Cam Fleming was beat, but guess what, guys? Offensive linemen are going to get beat sometimes, especially this year. Broncos are going against some really good defensive lines. So you have to have a quarterback who has that feel for the pocket, that can protect the football, keeping the eyes down the field, still going through their reads. And it's kind of it was the guard that I put up when everybody was super excited. And I was too about that Drew Lock to Jerry Jeudy pass against the Vikings, where it's like, okay, he went through multiple reads. It was great. Drew Lock didn't have to move an inch because the offensive line was perfect. He didn't have to negotiate the pocket. He just stood back there and trust the line, which sometimes you need to be able to do that. He didn't just all of a sudden panic, drop his eyes, and try to move. But the next step, the next evolution to that is keeping your eyes down the field, going through your progressions while moving in the pocket, keeping your base square.
It's that sixth sense, that sixth sense of the eyes in the back of your head, feeling. They call it feeling the pressure, and he didn't feel the backside pressure, and whether it came from the blind side or not, I didn't see him. Yeah. It kind of looped around and came from behind and reached in and got him from behind, reached in and hit his wrist. There's a stopwatch in your head that has to be going off, saying something's wrong. There's no way.
2-minute drill. You have to protect the ball.
Yeah. So and it's there's that stopwatch. The clock's gone off, saying I'm out of time. Mm-hmm. At worst, take a look. Feel the pressure, step up. But I don't want to. I haven't watched them nearly as much as you, obviously. So I don't want to say, okay, this is why. But that was a play he definitely should have done better on as a quarterback. He should have protected his team a little better.
Yep, I agree. And there was space to climb up the pocket there. And it is improvement because last year Locke would panic, and even though he had a pocket and he would try to bail and play hero ball. But right now, and sounds like it's been the case in practice as well with all the blown dead plays, he's kind of just almost defiantly standing back in the pocket, going through his reads like it's 7-on-7 with no pass rush. So the next step for Locke's evolution, if he's going to become a solid NFL starting quarterback, is to be able to negotiate the pocket while keeping his base clean, while going through his progressions. And you see quarterbacks like Tom Brady, not a great athlete. He is so good at maneuvering the pocket and just having that spatial awareness to climb, keeping his eyes down the field. And there was space for Locke to step up. I mean, between the right guard and the right tackle, he had a lane where he could have stepped up and bought himself another 2 seconds. So
it's funny to me that, we equate athleticism with bigger, faster, stronger, but there's so many other aspects of being an athlete that, Tom Brady is a great athlete. He's just not all that fast. He might not be quick, but he is a great athlete.
Yes. And he's also an expert craftsman. I think that's an important part of it as well. He's as skilled as there's any player that's ever been. Maybe not the biggest arm, not the biggest athlete, so skilled. Mr. Boggins coming in here saying, do you think if Teddy Bridgewater is consistent, this team could be similar to the 2019 Niners? That was the Niners team that went all the way to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, an amazing defensive line. Biggest thing about the 2019 Niners compared to this Broncos team is how good can this offensive line be? I've said it 100 times on here. This Broncos offensive line, if you had top 12 quarterback play, this team would be, I have no doubt in my mind, a Super Bowl contender with the defense as good as it is, weapons around them, and a solid offensive line. This offensive line is not going to sink the unit. However, I don't know if the offensive line is that top 10 capable unit where they can be the pivot that dictates how the offense plays and take it to opposing defenses. They're not going to kill you, but I don't know if they're also going to be a unit that allows you to, just go up against anybody and establish physicality and the flow of the game. I just don't know if they're that quality, and that 2019 Niners run game and pass or run blocking was good enough to do that, along with the best defensive line in football.
Yeah, and I don't want to make a comparison to another team. I'm not well versed enough in the 2019 49ers to make that comparison. What I do know is the tools are in place to, if things come together, get a little luck with health, offensive line stays healthy, quarterback play improves, that there's enough talent on this roster to make a run. There is, without a doubt. yes, it could be a team that makes a run to the Super Bowl. Will they? We got about 18 weeks to figure that out, don't we?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. DBA said he's late, didn't get the notification. Not sure why. It should have been notification after I made it, after it went live, but Boss Man didn't make the stream, so I had to rush to make it this morning. Got Cody Fan 109 saying, got to use a shoulder movement in the pocket as part of
little
it.
feints.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are better against defensive backs, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
Again, just to get them to hitch a little bit. I don't know that a shoulder fake's going to do as much against a 4-man rush, especially coming from the blind side. But yeah, I love just a little feint. If you can just break a stride of a defensive back in coverage, he's beat. So I agree. I love it.
Freezes safety. That's the way to go. Ben Bunt's coming in here saying, take Barkley out of the game, make Daniel Jones beat you. It's a wrap. That's definitely keep the game close, but you also have to score points on offense as well. And this Giants defense is probably, I would say it's the most underrated unit in football right now. They really attacked the secondary this last season. It's not as good as the Broncos secondary, but it's good. And their interior defensive line is great. They don't have elite edge rushers. That's probably another thing as well, but they're going to be a solid defense. So got to score points, got to protect the football. Diamond Rattler coming in here saying, why doesn't Locke climb the pocket? What do you think, Scott? Why doesn't Locke climb?
Well, I don't want to say why doesn't he, because like I said, I haven't watched him enough to make a blanket statement. But what on that play, why didn't he? He didn't feel the pressure coming. He didn't feel the pressure coming. And I don't know if there should be some communication on that. Like, hey, I just got beat. My guy's coming. Heads up, look out. That doesn't happen. But the truly great quarterbacks, like I said, they got a stopwatch in their head, and they know 3, 2, 1. I either get rid of the ball or they're gonna be around me. If I've lost sight of one of the rushers and they've come around behind me, I've got to be able to feel that. I've got to know they're coming. And at worst, Brian Greasy said it, so I don't want to just repeat what he says, but I'm going to. I want to give him credit. You got to have two hands on the ball at that point. He brought it down to, it was stripped at hip level. You can't see my hand. I'm pantomiming here with my hand, and I'm off camera. But it was stripped at hip level from the ball where he hit his right wrist. And there's got to be better protection there. He didn't do a good enough job of feeling the pressure and protecting the ball in that instance. Now, is that a case where it happens? That's a pattern. I'm going to leave that one to Nick.
I don't know if I call it a pattern totally just yet, but navigating the pocket is still something that Locke needs to work on. Ball protection ball security is job security, as I like to say. Andrew Lampy coming in with the stars here. Thank you very much, Andrew. Andrew's one of the highest up on the stars with a chance to win the Von Miller jersey. So guys, get those stars in, but Andrew's pretty high up there. So he's got a good shot with all those stars in there as a raffle ticket. We got Lewis coming in saying we are deep on wide receivers. That's true, Lewis. But you're only 4 deep. And it sounded like Peyton was hoping to keep maybe 7 or 8. So look for Broncos to add wide receivers to this team via the waiver wire. Let's
take the word wide out of there and look at receivers. You're probably 6 deep, right? And Sauber's pretty good too. But with Quegbenam and Fant's real easy to say for me. You're looking at 6 receiving options, and they're all good. They're all really good. So, I think you're deep at receivers, even if they're not all just wide receivers. But I think anybody that's got go someplace else and find me a 4th receiver that's as good as what the Broncos are going to be able to bring out there. And you're not going to be able to do it very many times across rosters in the NFL. So depth, again, is relative. Do we have 6 or 7? No, but who's got 4 at this level that the Denver Broncos are going to be able to roll out there?
Yeah, not many. We got CC coming in here with a comment saying, didn't Fant have a nagging ankle injury? Heard a lot of Saubert and even Alberto Quebenon, not much Fant. And then Keith also coming in here saying, is there any chance that Saubert moves up in the depth chart? I feel like he played at the best of the tight end group, both in pass and run in the preseason. If the Broncos are going to be a top 16 offense this year, you are going to need Fant to take a step forward and be used in the offense. But as far as I can tell, I don't know if Fant had a single reception in preseason, which I know he was dealing with injury, and he also not playing totally with the first unit. But that's a concern. I don't even know if he got a target. So if you have a first-round pick at tight end who is coming of age and was that good last year, that's a red flag for me. I don't know if it's game plan. I don't know what it is, but you don't want that guy to disappear. And I know that there's only really 3 tight ends.
After watching so many people not play this preseason, it's a question for me. It's not a red flag.
Yeah.
I watched, down here in Atlanta, watched the Rams. They didn't play starters at all. And then, I heard Greasy say the same thing again about what Sean McVay was saying about the Rams, is he takes more emphasis in the dual practices, in the combined practices, because that's where the microscope is on this guy. You can protect your guys, you can control the reps a little bit better. The down and distances puts more emphasis on that. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts, I wouldn't bet on him having a bad season. He played one series in the preseason, 1 target, 1 catch. If Noah Fant is healthy, that's the question I have. Not a red flag, but a question. Is he healthy? Is he going to be good to go in 2 weeks? The answer is yes. Noah Fant's going to be just fine.
Yeah, they need him. They really do need him, especially with this offense. Even if they're not going to be pushing the ball vertically, it's not going to be like the Patrick Mahomes offense. But if you can get the ball to playmakers, like that 2013 Broncos offense, good things can happen. You can win getting athletes in space. We got Matt Henry coming in here saying Broncos for breakfast with Nick and Scott and a cup of coffee for the win. Cheers to that, buddy. I'll cheers you to that. Love the show, guys. Thank you very much, Matt. That's really nice of you to say. Also, Jay's in the house. Hello, Jay. Good to see you coming in here. But we got a comment here from Ben saying, Ben Bunce coming. It wouldn't shock me if someone moves ahead of Fant in the depth chart, though I do think he will have a big season. Will Albert O be the red zone option, though? I actually want to ask you about Eric Saubert, because I know that he was a Falcon there for a while.
I couldn't have told you that.
You couldn't have even told me that. Okay. Well,
I couldn't have told you that.
He was a Falcon there for a bit. I think he was drafted by Atlanta, and he's actually impressed me in preseason so far. I feel like he's been a steady option. The Broncos did waive Sean Byer. Hopefully it sounds like they're hoping to bring him back to the practice squad. But Eric Saubert impressed me pretty consistently, both sides of the ball. And if the Broncos are looking for 11 personnel and being able to run out of it, it's stupid to take Fant off the field. But if he's not healthy, getting Saubert out there might be a pretty darn good option, because you still have the option. You have your explosive weapons with the wide receivers still, but you have the option to run pretty well out of 11 personnel if Saubert's out there.
Let's hit on double of these, because US Dave has a question. I mentioned Pitts, and then I want to follow up with Diamond Rattler's comment, because I think they'll tie in. US Dave has a fantasy football question. Will Pitts have the catches? Pitts is going to have plenty of catches. He's going to be used a lot. He's going to be a good option, especially in a fantasy league where you've got any kind of legacies, keepers in a keeper league of some sort.
Dynasty.
That brings into a fantasy comment I made to my friend last night, who is in a legacy league and was asking me about players. And Diamond Rattler says people are crazy. Teddy's going to be throwing to tight ends the most. I told him, I said, Noah Fant had a good enough year last year that you might not be able to sneak him in. But it's not a tight end mandatory league, because I always said, hey, if you can play a run and shoot, I started this league 20 years ago. If you can play a run and shoot in the NFL, you should be able to go tight end optional. But I told him, I said, Fant could be a sleeper pick down the way, because if Teddy Bridgewater is a starting quarterback, Noah Fant's going to see more touches this year. The question is how Teddy will spread the ball a lot. So there might not be one true fantasy stud receiver for the Denver Broncos. It could be a lot of really good, but no one huge standout. So we'll see the way he spreads the ball around.
I will push back a little bit. I would say buy all the stock you can on Jerry Jeudy right now. If you see Jerry Jeudy beyond I don't know what his ADP is right now, but if Jerry Judy's there in the 7th round, 6th round, buy. It's
all relative. Where do you people say, oh, he's overrated? It's like, well, what do you have him rated?
Yeah.
He's or he's a bust. Well, what were your expectations?
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know what we're saying. So, he was asking me about in a keeper league, 1st round pick, should I protect 2 guys and lose my first 2 picks? So no, you wouldn't give up 2 guys to draft Jerry Jeudy right away. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy should have a good season. He didn't have a terrible fantasy season last year. So people are probably sleeping on some, but we start talking about all these weapons going back into fantasy football. You start talking about all these weapons, it starts lowering fantasy values for any one guy. And that's the catch-22. And for when you're a fan of a team, who cares? I don't care. I want to see the numbers at the end total. I don't care. It's like, well, my guy didn't have 105 catches and 1,800 yards. We split that between 3 guys. Okay, that works.
Yep. Yeah, no, but I would buy on Jerry Jeudy. I think that Teddy Bridgewater is a great option for Jerry Jeudy because you guys, I mean, go type in Jerry Jeudy, what is it, sophomore year highlights. Half the highlights are him making guys look stupid after the catch. It's the yak ability. It's getting open really quickly and then making dudes look silly in the open field. Teddy Bridgewater is going to find Jeudy if the right coverage, little holes in the zone, right, or the guy getting open the right time, getting him the ball in space.
And we saw how good he is at creating a little bit of time, and Jerry Jeudy had those type of catches twice where the quarterback bought a little time and, hey, there's nobody within 5 yards of Jerry Jeudy. And then he picks up 25 yaks. So, he should have a really good season.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the comment, Diamond. Diamond's coming back in here saying, Nick, how many drops did Jeudy have last year? I think he had, this is off the top of my head, I think he had 7. But he had a lot of them in that one Chargers game where it seemed like he was in his head, and then things got really bad from there. But historically, guys really do clean up the drops. 12 drop passes here from Joseph. Not great, but also a lot of ones that were below the – you guys played baseball, I'm sure. You tossing the ball with your dad. If the ball was below your knees and hit your glove, that's on you. But could have had better placement on some of those balls.
A good first baseman saves about 12 throwing errors from his shortstop every year.
Yep, exactly. But Jeudy did have drops last year, but historical context, which matters. That's what we have to go off of. Drops get cleaned up a lot from year 1 to year 2. So, and I think we only saw maybe one Jeudy drop all of camp this year. So, Judy's never going to be the Brandon Marshall over the middle, just hulking linebackers and defensive backs for contested catches, but he's going to create space. And you'll probably have to live with some drops, but you're also going to be living with amazing ability to get open and yak. So I'm telling you guys, buy Jerry Jeudy stock. He sounds like he is going to explode this season. And with Sutton kind of coming back a little slowly, Noah Fant being injured right now as well, you could see Jeudy take off quickly this season. So maybe it's one of those things where you buy low now. Week 4, he's killing it, leading the league in receptions and yards are up there like that. Sell high, and once Sutton's coming back, it's stocks, right? It's a football stock.
We might turn this one into our clip of the day, a little fantasy football advice. Which Denver Bronco do we need to buy high on?
Definitely Jeudy. I would also think somebody that people are buying low on right now, that's going to be somebody that I'd want early and then maybe sell later, is Melvin Gordon. He's going to be the first running back. He's probably going to get like a 60-40, 65-35 split early on. They're excited about Javonte Williams, but I think early on they're going to lean on Gordon. So Gordon's going late for a running back. So this is a team I would be surprised if you didn't well outperform Gordon as long as injuries don't occur. Any final thoughts on the 53? Obviously, we didn't break down every single position, every single spot, but it looks like a good roster. Special teams is going to be a question. Quarterback's a question. Can the offensive line turn into a top 10 unit that could make this offense totally different? They could actually be a run first dictating offense. I mean, I know we talk about the Titans in here a lot, but a team last year where they didn't ask the quarterback to reinvent the wheel. It was an offensive line dictated unit. The Browns, obviously they're the best offensive line in football, so that makes it easier to dominate, but you can win if you're quarterback. You're just asking him to play point guard, play action and run with dominant, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, and a dominant offensive line. That can take you pretty darn far. And they almost knocked out the Chiefs last year at that too. So could happen.
I think my comments is just to reiterate something we've harped on during the cut downs from 90 to 85 to 80 is that there seems, for the most part, there's 2 players at every position. There's a couple exceptions in there. Inside linebacker there might be you're not quite as strong as others, but there's veteran leadership and talent. And there's guys on 1-year contracts that are playing for free agent, and there's young guys with talent coming behind them. So you have double incentive for your players and your starters to be hungry, on top of winning, obviously.
Yeah.
But, when you're playing for a contract and you got a kid behind you who's chomping at the bit, who's talented, that type of competition cannot be underestimated in making this team better the 6 days of the week before they play on Sundays. So I think it's a very strong roster that's set up to, like we said, make a run. It depends on having a little bit of luck with injuries and making sure you get the quarterback play that can be, at worst, average. Average is a big step forward. I mean, it sounds like I'm tired of average quarterback play. Well, you haven't had average quarterback play. You've had bad quarterback play. Get up to average and things are going to start looking pretty good.
Yep. Absolutely. Things will get better. This is going to be as good of a season as the Broncos have had in a while, and that's going to be exciting. Meaningful football into November. That's the first goal for me because the Broncos have been so bad to start. Actually, first goal for me is starting 1-0. Let's just get this on the right foot. I said it on last night, Broncos for breakfast. I really hope they appreciate or approach this this game as a play-in game. Win or you're out, because you need to start 1-0. You need to honestly start 3-1 to start the season, because this is the easiest chunk of games you're going to have against quarterbacks who are still getting their feet wet. And then the schedule does get a little tougher from there. So Fangio has never won a game in September coaching the Broncos, and which is crazy because the Broncos have historically insane numbers in September because teams coming to Denver aren't acclimated like Denver is early
catch
on.
Their breath.
They
literally.
Seriously, there was something like Denver was before the Vic Fangio area. They were like 50-2 against the spread in September games in Denver because that's crazy, but it had to do with the conditioning in Mile High compared to those other teams. So that has not, although I think the Broncos actually did cover the spread even in the Vic Fangio area, even though they lost. Hopefully you'll see them win and hopefully they'll do better there, but they got to win some games in September, got to get off on the right foot. And then from there, we can have some meaningful football from then on out. But guys, that's going to do it for us today on Broncos for Breakfast. We're going to be back live tomorrow, Thursday, for some more talk here.
Days.
Back to back, baby. Back to back. But that's Broncos for Breakfast. We'll be back Thursday, like I said, 7:30 Mountain Time. You guys can follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you follow us at Mile High Huddle if you're wondering, hey, why aren't they live on Tuesday? Make sure you check the main account there. Maybe something's going on like yesterday because I was doing a 5-hour drive back to Seattle. So a little hard for me to do that. I didn't want to do it from the car, although that's not safe. I shouldn't do that. But also, guys, make sure you're following us on Facebook, clicking the thumbs up. We got a lot of reacts coming in here. We got a sad react from Adam Breen. Hopefully things get better there. Wow from Tim Durr, heart from Keith Brugman, and a bunch of hearts and likes as well. If you guys have not done that yet, make sure you drop the like there. That also goes for YouTube. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, also follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Join us on YouTube today. Subscribe, like, and share. I know not everybody's in a position where they can give stars or give super chats or give super stickers or anything like that, but you don't have to do that to support the show. If you guys would like those Facebook page, drop the like here. Also subscribe, like, and share on YouTube. That can help us a lot. For YouTube folks, also go to Scott's channel. Scott's putting in good work over at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. And Scott, would you do me a favor and give a roll call of everybody who we could capture here, producing ourselves, who joined the show today and contributed?
Well, there's several. I mean, I know for today, I'm going to start working my way up. Lewis Condon just came in late with stars on Facebook. Thank you. Diamond Rattler was in at least 3 times. If I miss somebody, Andrew Lampley, Mr. Boggins, Michael Ranquillo, Shannon Mills, Chris Graham, Shane Daniels, John De Herrera. Those are the list I had. And if I missed somebody, I apologize. We will find you and say thank you tomorrow because we're back in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, and appreciate everybody with the kind comments here. You guys are great. Thank you. Also, again, I said it earlier, but thank you so much for just keeping it football oriented, not taking us or each other too seriously. This is fun. We're just passing time, all sharing this rock as we hurtle through space and try to find some meaning and some joy from football, which wish we had a little bit more joy from football the last 5 years, but it's going to be better this year, guys. I know it. Also, shout out and thoughts to everybody dealing with Hurricane Ida right now. You guys are in our thoughts and prayers, and we'll get through it. This is a nation that's gotten through a lot, but I know you guys can. And just really thinking about you guys. Wanted to give a shout out to you as well because you guys are very much, anybody dealing with that is very much on my mind right now. Because
and I think Peter Middleton was in earlier. I missed him, and I actually, when you were asking me about contributing, I was going to say thank you to Peter for coming over to the YouTube channel and talking some soccer. I enjoy hitting on those a little bit. We did a Chelsea Arsenal preview, and Chelsea just dominated Arsenal, so that was a good one. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Chelsea had a big transfer yesterday, or a loan.
They got a loan from Atletico Madrid, central midfielder Saul. So we'll see how that goes. They're looking pretty strong. So Denver Broncos, Chelsea, both looking pretty good.
There you go, the boys in blue. All right, guys, we're gonna get on out of here. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early. But until then, go Broncos.